This excerpt from the public television program, The Piano Guy, is brought to you by NAMM, the International Music Products Association. In this segment, I'd like to work through the classic Beatles tune, Yesterday. With me to help me work through the song is my good friend, David Tolley. Hi, David.
Hi, Scott.
How you doing?
Good, just doing great.
Well, I appreciate you coming and kind of sharing your expertise with us one way or the other. This tune is a beautiful, nice, easy, simple melody, and I'm excited to work through it. And you know, for our viewers, it's not really crazy hard chord changes. It's such a well-known tune. I think I'd like to really just work on staying true to the tune and just adding in tiny baby steps a few things to get it kind of off the sheet, off the lead sheet, and into the piano, turning it into a good tune. So let's try to work through that way. Why don't you play a couple measures at the beginning, and we'll just kind of get this in our head and start. What a great tune. How many times has that been performed? How about those performance royalties?
No, I love those performance royalties.
You heard a funny thing about this, or I guess when McCartney had written this tune, he dreamt it. It might be an urban legend, but said he dreamt it and he woke up and he was so panicked that he was plagiarizing someone, that it wasn't really an original dream, that he just heard it. He spent a long time playing it for a bunch of people, saying, have you ever heard this before? And finally convinced himself it was original, so good for him and lucky for him. Now, digging into this, it really, when you think of the recording, it really was almost that simple. I mean, it was just a single melody with a single chord. There weren't, later on in the arrangement, you got some strings and things in there, but boy, at the beginning, it's just that simple. And so, it's nice to know that maybe when you're true to a song like this, you don't need to do all this heavy embellishment. But if you were going to start playing, what would be your first step up the ladder on the melody to start personalizing it, I guess?
I guess I'd probably start it out with single notes, and then I would slowly start filling in with some added chords underneath, like a roll, like.
Okay, and you're just rolling up whatever the chord you're on.
Right, whatever chord.
So at that point in the tune, it's what, a D minor?
A D minor.
Okay.
Same thing there. B flat.
Okay.
And then maybe try a couple block chords where it's.
And by block chords, you mean all your fingers are coming down at the same time?
Right, coming down at the same time. Instead of rolling them, just add a little bit of variety.
Okay, now how do you give us a little, play around a little bit with the melody, just single note at a time for me.
Okay.
What are some it's hard, we talk about this all the time, but sometimes we would say we need some really hard brass tack ideas for starting to noodle around with a melody line.
Okay, so it's like a little grace note underneath.
Okay. Now, do you normally do a grace note from a whole step or a half step away, or does it matter?
A lot of times, if it's a pop rock ballad, I try to keep it in whatever scale we're in.
Okay.
But if it's a jazz thing, I could, put in colored chords by doing from the half step below.
Okay. Well, that's kind of a nugget there. So a decision could be whatever chord you're playing, the scale of that chord is the important one to play from, as opposed to always just using a half step away or just sliding away.
Right.
Okay, to keep moving on that, down that topic, what other things can you do to noodle around with a melody a little bit?
Okay, another thing would be you could go,
so it's like run-ups.
Yeah, a little arpeggiation run-up. I skipped a note in the middle, but actually to stay on the chord, I just went.
You could probably just do that from notes right next to it too, couldn't you?
Exactly. And even do, or
it's funny the techniques. I guess we've developed all this to try to imitate an instrument that can bend a note, because we can't do it on a piano.
We can't bend the piano.
Yeah, so there's no attempt at really good technique there, right? It's just getting to it quickly. I mean, imagining a trombone, boom, getting up to it in that way. Anything else on a melodic line? I saw you playing some octaves earlier.
Right. When I get to the bridge, just to set that section apart, I added octaves. How's it go again?
There you go. So, in addition, if now you're playing all the chord between there, but you could just play the melody line in octaves, right?
Yeah, I could go.
So that may be a simpler step up for some of our viewers, that they can just to emphasize the melody more that way, doing it. Well, let's shift gears and go to the left hand for a few minutes now. At the beginning, step one would be just block chords, right?
Right.
So just single, root position chords. What's step 1A? What's one notch up?
Maybe block it up a little. Change it up a little bit by, instead of just playing a block chord, you could maybe, do an oompah, or you can arpeggiate it like that. Or you can do a block, but kind of syncopated, instead of doing a straight head rhythm thing like that. And
the good thing about all those ideas you just gave us is that your hands never had to move.
Right.
I mean, from a target practice hand position standpoint, you're staying there. It's just deciding to noodle around with whatever notes are under your fingers at that point. Interesting thought, and it raised it when you said it, was this idea of using some sort of a rhythm instead of just playing a consistent one, or instead of just holding it down the whole time. How do you decide what that rhythm is? Just
if I was charting this out for a record or something, I'd probably spend a lot more time, figuring out, okay, this is how the rhythm is going to go on this. But just for casual playing at a gig or something like that, they always said that, Ringo Starr wasn't the best technical drummer,
right?
But he could play with a vocalist. And so basically, I guess you could say it's chording and adding rhythms around what the melody's doing, if that makes any sense.
No, so I guess you're thinking,
competing against it.
That's what I was going to say. So maybe the thought then is always keeping in your mind, even though you're playing a melody line, you're really kind of singing it in your head.
Right.
And trying to, so knowing what that is, you've got to kind of work around and accompany that, knowing like in a vocalist's mind what would be coming out that way.
Exactly.
Okay, interesting.
So if I feel a gap in there, instead of playing a lick, I might just change up the rhythm of the left hand, like if it was an acoustic guitar or something.
Okay. Now let's take it up. So we've gone from the single chords to some of these little ideas. Let's take it up another notch. How do you start expanding a little more?
Okay. Basically, if I wanted to make it a little bit more romantic, since it is a ballad, and I wanted to take it away from the simple block chord, I could start arpeggiating it, like.
Okay, now by arpeggiating it, you literally mean just splitting the chord up amongst multiple octaves.
Right.
Boo, doo, doo, and just hitting chord tones up. And what, up, down, just up?
Up, down.
Doesn't matter, huh?
It really doesn't. And you can play the chord, but sometimes you can, as you're getting higher up in the chord, you can also play scale tones too in the left hand. And
give us an easy pattern there that we can really imitate. Maybe do-ba.
When you're down low, if you play a chord in closed voicing where every single note in the chord is there, it gets kind of muddy.
Okay.
So usually and orchestrators think like this too, that usually the octave below middle C, you can start putting your voices close together, but down here you should try to keep it pretty open, or
so don't
fit.
Get your notes really close together, separate them
there.
out, and so make some decisions that way to keep some gaps in there,
right?
And then fill in whatever the notes you're skipping.
Exactly.
Up in the next octave
up here you can almost do a whole scale if you wanted to.
All right. Well, those are some good tips then, David. I appreciate that. Let's hear you play the whole tune now.
Okay.
Now, this is, if you're sitting down working a gig and someone requests yesterday, here it comes.
Okay.
That was a very nice arrangement.
Thank you.
Thanks for helping us out. This excerpt from the public television program, The Piano Guy, has been brought to you by NAMM, who reminds you that playing a musical instrument is a fun, interactive hobby that benefits your mind, body, and spirit. It's never too early or too late to start. Want to play?